So we started last week. We started this review process of the Gita because we'd finished till chapter 8, and pretty much, I would say 80% or 85% of the content has been covered, not the detail, but the concepts. And some things are still left, like Shraddhatraya and all of that. Rajas, Tamas, and all this. More details about that coming up. But other than that, the main concepts have been covered, Vedantic concepts. So we went through a review yesterday. Last time we went through chapter 1, and the main point in chapter 1 was about readiness. How do we say we are ready for Vedanta? Who is ready for Vedanta? Who is not? What does it take to get ready? We talked about that Mundaka Upanishad shlok, which is very popular, very well known, and it kind of talks about readiness. Discussed all that. So that was chapter 1. And Gita, the readiness is in the context of Arjun talking to Krishna, because Arjun took a long time approaching Krishna to give him knowledge. He knew Krishna for a long time, and Krishna never insisted, never even brought it up. Only when Arjun asked, when he realized that Arjun is ready, did he even start discussing this. So that's one of the sort of ideas behind Vedanta is, you don't force it on people. When people get ready, they come to it. And then you give them knowledge. It doesn't mean what Sanjay was saying is wrong, which is you can still introduce. That is different. You can introduce
at a young age. What is that?
Sanjay has been talking about introducing Vedanta to children. So introducing is a different aspect. There's a difference between introducing and teaching. So
making them aware.
There's no harm. That's okay. That's fine. But there's no point going beyond it. But introduction will help because, when they will at least know in the back of their mind that there is something called Vedanta. We are always introduced because since childhood, we've been introduced to this. But a lot of people are not. So anyway, so that's the readiness part. Then we go on to chapter 2, and chapter 2 is a very big chapter. It's got 72 verses, and you can think about that chapter in 2 parts, broadly speaking. The first sort of half of the chapter, till verse 38, actually the first 10 verses of that chapter are really a continuation of chapter 1, because that's still about Arjun asking Krishna for knowledge and all the background there and all that. So the teaching really starts from verse 11 of chapter 2. And in about the first, you could say 7-8 verses are about, Bhagwan Krishna telling Arjun there is no reason for sorrow. And he explains why no sorrow. And then another 10-12 verses he gets into detail about Atma. He introduces what Atma is and how Atma neither, is born nor dies and so on. So he gets into the knowledge, the Gyan part, but Gyan from the perspective of Atma, from the perspective of the individual, not from the perspective of Ishwar, right? Which comes later in the Gita. And then he talks, and I'm not purposely going too much into that because we will go into that in a minute. I'm going to ask you actually to go into the content of it. And then in the second half of the chapter 2, Krishna Bhagwan actually says, okay, now I've told you about Gyan. Let me tell you about Karma Yoga, a way to control and address your desires, to control and address your mental tendencies, to gain discipline of the mind. And then he spends about 14-15 verses talking about Karma Yoga. And, some famous quotes like, your adhikar or your right is only on the actions, not on the results, things like that. You remember? So these kind of quotations are all there. And he introduces Karma Yoga very broadly. And in the second half, you could say the final part is Arjun asks Krishna Bhagwan, what are the lakshana, what are the indications of a realized soul? How do I know that a person is realized when I meet one? Or, what does it mean to be realized in very practical terms? And Krishna Bhagwan talks about that too. He talks about the concept of sthir pragnya. Sthir pragnya means a person who is sthir, who is not impacted by the dvandva, by the ups and downs of life, by the, it's not like he's not at his happiness or his contentment is not based on the vagaries of the world, because the world is going up and down. The world is full of ups and downs. So a person who is able to maintain himself in himself, despite what is going on around him, is a sthir pragnya. Sthir means steady. Pragnya means consciousness. So it's just the term means one who's steady. So, he gives other qualities also, but this is the main focus. So this is chapter 2 in a very, very broad level. So let me share this so you can see this in a little bit more detail. Can you see my screen?
But are you recording it? I cannot see the record.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Start the recording.
Recording is on.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see here, starting with chapter 11, because like I said, the first 10 verses were more chapter 1, really, just a continuation of chapter 1. So starting with chapter 11, he's saying, 11 to 16 is, Krishna explains that there is no reason for sorrow. It appears only due to non-recognition of Atma, which is Sat and cannot be destroyed. So because we don't recognize the Atma, we think we are this body and mind, and the body and mind can be destroyed. That is why we feel the sorrow. Atma, on the other hand, is Asat, Mithya, and its cycle of birth. Anatma. Anatma is Asat. Atma is Sat. That means it cannot be destroyed. Anatma, which is this body and the mind, is Asat. That means it's Mithya. It is not true. And its cycle of birth, destruction, rebirth cannot be prevented. So this is an important verse. He said two things. One, that which is Atma, that which is you really, the essence of you, Atma, can never be destroyed. And then he says that which is not the Atma, which is this body mind, can never not be destroyed. You can't preserve it. There's no way you can prolong its life. But anything in this world is given to birth and destruction. There is no way to prevent it, It will always happen. It will be destroyed. So these two sort of facts he describes clearly about Atma and Anatma. And he's saying then Asat cannot be a source of sorrow for the Sat. So for that which cannot be destroyed, that is, you, the Atma, you cannot have Asat be a source of sorrow for the Sat. Asat can be a source of sorrow only for the Asat. That means that which can be destroyed can be a source of sorrow only for that which is destroyed, not for a source of sorrow for something which cannot be destroyed. A wise person knows this and remains unaffected by the ups and downs of life. So this was the first 5-6 verses. And then he goes on 70 to 28, he explains the nature of Atman in greater depth. Changeless, without attributes, timeless, etc., etc. No birth, no death, unmanifest. Krishna also explains that the Atma is non-dual and cannot be perceived as an object. These are all things that we've talked about, right? So how there's no way to know the Atma, because Atma is the knower. Everything else can be known by the Atma. By known we mean it can either be perceived through our senses, or it can be conceived by the mind. There are things that you cannot see, but you can conceive. A lot of the universe around us, other than what is in our immediate vicinity, we never actually see. We only conceive. We read about it, somebody tells us about it, and we conceive. That's all. That means it is known by the mind, not known by the senses. Only things that we actually see are known by the senses. So Atul is going to go to Chile, and then he will know Chile through his senses. He will see the mountains of Chile and the wineries over there. But right now, he's already conceived of it. He's read about it, and his mind knows it. So, and if he never goes to Chile, he will still know about Chile. He will have conceived Chile. Chile can be conceived. Everything in this world can be conceived. And to some extent, depending on your capabilities, can be known too by the senses. But Atma is something that cannot be conceived and cannot be known. That's what he's trying to say, because it is not an object. The one who knows Chile or a winery in Chile is Atul. And that Atul is the subject. The object of knowledge is this winery, let's say. So Atul knows the object. But the subject cannot know the subject. Atul can't know Atul. Because who is it who's the knower? Atul. Who's the known? Atul. So it's like you cannot possibly conceive yourself. That ultimate, even if you're conceiving yourself, you will always be thinking about yourself. You'll be artificially thinking about yourself in the third person. When we make a impression about ourselves, or we think about ourselves, let's say objectively examine ourselves, then there is a part of us which becomes the examiner, and the rest of us, we artificially create a distance between us. We think about us as a third person, and then see, what did I, like Sanjay says sometimes, end of the day, reflect on what you did. So when you reflect on what you did, in your mind, Sanjay creates an image of Sanjay, and he's himself seeing that Sanjay's image and trying to see what did Sanjay do during the day. He has created a distance between himself and that Sanjay, and made that Sanjay an object. During the time then when he is looking at himself and examining himself, that Sanjay which he's examining is not him. That's a third person that he has created. Because there is no way to know yourself. The one who is examining is that Atma, always, and that cannot be examined. There's just no way. So that's what he was trying to say here, that Atma is non-dual. Non-dual is also important because, we've talked about it. I don't want to go into it again. It's not in time and space, and it cannot be perceived as an object. And then he goes on again to say the self is never killed, nor does it kill. In fact, Atma is not a karta, performs no action. A jnani has no sense of doership. The action is performed by the physical body. And the physical body is an Atma, is like a set of clothes which are replaced when worn. For that which is born, death is certain. For that which dies, birth is certain. Again, this goes back to our philosophy of reincarnation. If the body dies, then the body, nothing kind of, nothing disappears. Everything transforms. So body gets transformed into something else. And the Indian philosophy is that the body gets transformed into another physical body. So that keeps happening all the time. But the Atma never changes. So he was trying to say then, the physical body is like a set of clothes which are replaced when worn. For that which is born, death is certain. For that which dies, birth is certain. There is no reason to grieve over that which cannot be altered. So this is his teaching about Atma from chapter 17 to 28. Verse 17 to 28. Okay. And then he describes, he's reflecting as he's talking about it. And he's saying actually Atma is a wonder. It's a wonder because it is the closest thing to us, because it is us. It is me. Nothing can be closer than me. Yet I don't know it. I can't know it. In fact, because it is so close that it is me, that I can't really know it. To know something, you need a distance. So that was just an observation he was making. And then he again summarized 30 to 30. He again talked about this. He goes back and says there is no reason for sorrow. And he says that, he tells Arjun, get up and fight, because you are lucky you get a chance to fight this dharam yudh. If you die, you go to heaven. If you don't die, you emerge victorious. So either way, it's win-win for you. So fight. Okay. So we'll talk about the Karam Yoga later, maybe next time. That's the verses 39 to 72. But just this one. What I now want to do, I'm going to shut this off. Is I'm going to ask you guys to explain, sort of in your words, when we say Gyan Yoga, when we say knowledge, this maybe another way to put it is, what's the core essence of Vedantic knowledge? This knowledge of Atma and all. Just talk about it. What do you understand? If someone says, explain to me the core concepts of Vedanta. What is Vedanta all about? How would you go about it? And, we'll start discussing. It's okay, even if they are not accurate or whatever, we'll talk through them and that'll be nice. So whoever wants to go first can go first.
My summary statement is to paraphrase Mr. Manjal. He was our chemistry teacher. Is all in a one this. That
Sorry?
to me, all in a one this. Sab ek hai. Everything is one.
Okay.
So so that to me is the to me that's the essence of Vedanta. It's all one. When they talk about is it polytheistic religion or a monotheistic religion, some joke is that in the Hindu tradition or in the Vedantic tradition, it's not a question of there is only one God. There is only God.
Yeah, that's true. That is it.
So yeah.
But say more about it, expand in a little bit more detail. When you say all is one, are you saying Atul and Paula are one, and Mukta and Sanjay and I, we are all one? This and Table Lamp and I am one?
No, so see, that's the Vedantic part.
Okay.
So now if I describe more, you will admonish me for deviating from Vedanta, because
I can't admonish you.
No. My point being that the manifestation of what I said, I think steps outside the Vedantic.
But Vedanta goes beyond saying everything is one. It has some explanation for why I see this table lamp as different from me, why I'm different. It goes beyond just that one statement, right?
No, I understand that, but see.
So explain that to us. And if that is not comfortable for you, want to explain your own part, that is fine too. But
where I would take it, where I normally take it, is not related to is this cup separate from me or is Paula separate from me? I said all are interconnected. We are all one. But the practical manifestation of what I say from my own practical usage standpoint, in other words, when I'm struggling with, let's say, sorrow or purpose of life or sadness about how it's going to end and soon and what I didn't do or all that kind of stuff. So my relief actually, and I don't attribute that to Vedanta. That's maybe that's a falling of mine. But my comfort comes from when I remind myself of my own insignificance. So, and the best way I do that is when I think of what you guys call Brahman. So when I think of the universe and say, how small I am, how small the earth is in this big universe. Even the earth is like a grain of sand. And then in this big, wild, big earth, I am just one little individual. So when I remind myself of my insignificance, I sort of say, who am I to worry about this big Brahman? And I'm nobody. I'm fortunate that I got to experience this. And then, so on the space axis, I consider myself to be very insignificant. And then on the time axis, I consider my life to be insignificant. We know the universe has existed for 13 billion years or 13.5 billion years, and it'll probably exist for another such similar number. So what is 62 years, or even 100 years in that? So that reminder of any individual's insignificance I find that reassuring, in the sense ki yaar chup kar, like shut up. You
What
have
am I
no reason to
striving for?
cry.
Like, what difference will another 1 year make, or another
Yeah,
trip?
easy come, easy go, +1, -1, who cares, that kind of a thing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. In my view, that probably is not part of the Krishna teaching, but that's how I'm massaging this for my own comfort.
Okay. Do you have any idea or any recollection of what is the Krishna teaching? What is the Vedantic view on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Krishna teaching is like you talked about the sthir. What was the second word? Pragya.
Yeah.
Or this thing about something that I think we learned back in school, actually, part of our Hindi education, about focus on the work and not the result, which is actually, I find that very opposed to the Western way of looking at things, especially in the business world, which is so research oriented or so result oriented. So those are the things that I do connect with. That you do your thing, don't worry about the outcome. You do the right thing, and the outcome will take care of itself.
Actually, that is the two things that you mentioned, sthir prajna and this, they're completely related. The way to get sthir prajna is by focusing on the action, not on the result, because the result is not always in your control, and you'll go up and down with the result.
And it doesn't surprise me that they are connected, because in my own experience also they are connected. I mean, in other words, you feel more at peace when you are not focused on the results. In fact, even in my business teaching or business practice, or actually even in my stock trading, I sort of say, if you're shooting for, I want to make 29,000. So I never try to push it to the 30 mark, because that's when trouble happens. So in other words, 29 is as good as 30. So the round number doesn't matter. The 9 is as good as 10. So in other words, do what you need to do. Let the result be what it is. Even if you miss it by, $50, $500, doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. And actually Krishna goes further and says that what we're looking for at the end of the day to be happy in this world is contentment in our mind. We forget that, and if it's contentment in our mind we need, we should not focus on the results. So it's a very self-enlightened
And in your honor, Dheeraj, and I don't know if I've ever may have mentioned this to you, but don't think I mentioned this to Sanjay or Mukta or even Paula. So I'll say that about 3 miles, 4 miles from where you are, maybe behind you or in front of you, whatever. But in Fremont, there's this thing called the Mission Peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, what, 3,000 feet high or something.
Yeah,
it's not. It's a bloody Rajasthani hill, So, but I used to climb that with a person I was dating at that time, and she was an athlete. I was good enough to, stay up with her. But often, we would climb the whole thing often on a weekend. But many times when it was raining or windy or weather was bad, I would still go, and I would stop about 300, 400 feet below the peak, because that's where it gets exposed. There are no trees.
That is really the tough part. Yeah.
And it's a steep thing. So
yeah,
I would say, I'm going to wait here. You go if you need to go. And she used to be very critical of me that we are so 300 feet, just 300 feet before the summit. And why am I quitting? I said, I'm not quitting. I'm just quit enjoying it. So I'm stopping because it's no longer fun for me. It's no longer satisfying for me. So that to me was my thing. I'm not doing it to score a medal or how many times have I climbed Mission Peak, and I'm doing it for fun. I mean, loving it. Once I stop loving it, 300 feet, 20 feet, doesn't matter to me. I'm done. So this gyan actually literally came in Fremont. Even before you got
it. You could have read the Gita and got it long earlier.
Yeah, that's the thing. No, that goes to Sanjay's point. that could have, would
You
have,
got
should
it
have,
back.
but I'm fortunate that I got it 10 years ago.
Yeah. Maybe you were ready then, you got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That answers your other question. When are you ready? You never know when you're ready.
But it appears.
It appears, yeah.
Okay. So what about anybody else want to kind of add to that, your understanding of Vedant and
What Vedant has taught us up till now, and lot of things which we were not exposed, which we were not taught, which we were not aware of, they have come out of Vedant. The first thing is about the Jiva part. Jiva means we never knew the whole layering, you can say, or the whole system, how it works. Now that clarity has really thrown up many things, how you look at the world and how you look at yourself and how you look at others and how you treat others. Those misconceptions, there was no clarity on all these topics which Vedanta has given. So I think this is the Gyan part, and then the Karam Yog part, and how you balance both, how you calm your mind, you become aware of things. वो कहते हैं ना, हम पहले बेहोशी में चल रहे थे, अब हम जाग गए हैं.
right?
वो बेहोशी में चलना और जाग के चलना, there is a lot of difference how you see at the things. You were just doing things, you were just doing your work, but now you look at your work at a different angle. Now you look at people at a different angle. Now you look at a different angle, how people are working for you and how you treat those people and how you treat yourself when you are in tough situations. So that has been a big eye-opener, at least for me. I don't know about others, but that has given a lot of peace, a lot of happiness, a lot of contentment. And I told you the anger part, my anger part and my frustration part, it's
Night and day.
gone way notches down.
Yeah, night and. So
it has gone way.
When you say the Jiva and different layers, how you see others, so tell us a little bit more about what Vedant says. What is the Gyan here?
No, Vedanta has taught about that subject and the object, the subtle body.
Yes.
I was never aware of the subtle body, only the physical body and the mind.
Right.
You were working basically at the two planes.
Right.
Now we have the physical body, we have the subtle body, we have the mind and the 15 other things.
Right.
And the mind ke bhi apne 4 parts.
Right. Okay, that's what you meant. Yes.
And then you really still try to go back, and who is watching the mind?
Right.
You see, you try to go a step back and see who is the real witness.
Yeah.
And when you try to find the real witness and always try to act like the real witness, the whole frustration and anger and all those things, I think they disappear.
Brilliant. Now I understand what you're saying. You're very right. So you're saying in life you try to remember that you are the witness. You try to remember.
You try to go to that level where you can feel you are just a witness.
Yeah.
And whatever is happening, it's happening, whether it's for good or bad, it's up to you to take it. Yes. It's up to actually your mind which is taking it.
Right.
You just have to see your mind, how
it is taking
the mind is behaving.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Excellent. Yeah.
So for me, that's been a very good educative thing from Vedanta. Yeah. Baaki to cheeze hai hi hai, matlab, what you taught about Sharanam, Manan and Nidhi Dhyasanam.
Yeah.
And gradually, I think all these concepts, you keep repeating, thinking about it, and then exactly. Abhi bhi dekho, I haven't grasped what you telling about the Atma. How to reach Atma, since it cannot be objectified, how we are going to study about Atma and connect with Atma. You see,
Yeah.
that's proving to be a difficult step for me.
Yeah. No, but I think you're already, I would say, more than 50% there because of what you said, which is you say sometimes I think of myself as witnessing the mind. So
Yeah.
that which is witnessing the mind, that is Atma, you know? And it is not,
Ah.
it's not possible to know it. You can't witness it like you can witness the mind, right?
पर problem
The
क्या
mind
आती है
cannot
कि
witness the Atma.
always you cannot be in that state.
Yeah, no, you can't be.
You
That's
see,
true. Yeah.
always you cannot be in that state,
Yeah.
because in that state you really have to have a very cool and subdued thinking, very clarity of thought, and no emotions, I think.
Yeah. Or at least not be disturbed by the emotions. Yes. Yeah. You're right.
Not being
Yeah.
overtaken by the emotions.
Yeah.
You have to be in that state of mind to get that touch.
Yeah. No. That's great. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Mukta and Paula, you want to add to that, or your interpretation or your sort of angle on what is Vedanta?
I think Sanjay has quite summed it up. Basically, it's just that only ki, everything is just consciousness or awareness, and the world and we, our bodies, I mean, they just appear in the world or get manifested in this world from the consciousness, and basically we are at the apparent level, and consciousness is the main thing,
the real level,
and only consciousness is, and the whole world just is like a, kya bole isko, what word to use?
It's a manifestation, or it's name and form. That's how it is described.
Yeah.
The substance is Atma.
And that subject object thing that Sanjay mentioned, that Atman is the subject, and it can never be an object. So since it cannot be an object, we cannot see, perceive, touch, hear, or through the senses. And what Sanjay was saying, ki, how will we know how to understand it? I mean, I think that I have got this perception that this will happen intuitively in, like, that whatever we are doing, studying, understanding, then probably one fine day we'll just get it. It will not be, we cannot study it or feel it or see it or anything. It will be just that intuitive thing. That's what I understood.
1 second. Son is just calling. Yeah, Vidu? Beta, I'm in the middle of my class. Is it urgent? Are you sure? Okay. I'll call you back in about half an hour. Yeah, keep going, Mukta. Sorry. That was my son. I wanted to make sure he didn't have anything urgent.
What I was saying, I had almost said it, that what Sanjay was saying, I think we will know it intuitively through all this knowledge that we gain.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be just our intuition.
Absolutely right. Actually, what will happen, I think, is one day you will realize, oh, I didn't realize that I know it. It's like that. And so this is one of the concepts of Vedanta. When something is unknowable by us, I can't know it through my mind. I can't know it. I can't know the qualities of Atma. I know that I exist. This I know. Nobody has to tell me that I exist, right? You know you exist. You know that you were there when you were in Montfort School as a child. It was Mukta, you were there. You know you are there now. You were there yesterday. You were there. Never in your memory have you not been there. Correct? Do you need someone to tell you that?
Correct.
You don't. What proof do you have that the Mukta who was in Montfort School in Standard 8, studying with Mr. Munjal, is the same Mukta right now? What proof do you have? Do you have any proof? You look different, you're at a different place, but you don't have ever any doubt about it. There is no doubt. There is no doubt that you have existed all this while, and there is no doubt that you exist today. How do you know this? You don't know this because through your senses. You don't know this through your mind. You don't think about it and make a logical conclusion. Oh, I exist because, I can see, that's why I exist, or this is this, and this is the same me. You don't make any such thing. You just know. That you know that you exist, that is automatic. That thing which exists is Atma. That is consciousness. Now, so you know that Atma exists. You exist as your Atma exists. You exist. That's Atma exists. But if I was to ask you, describe Mukta, the Atma, describe yourself, you can't describe. Because everything that you describe, I will be able to tell you, or you will be able to say for yourself, that is really not me. You can describe parts of your body. You can describe your ideas, your feelings. You can describe your emotions. You can describe your possessions, right? You can describe all of those things. But that's not you. That is not you. That belongs to you, or you assume that it belongs to me, right? All the things that you describe have not been unchanged since you were at school. Everything that you say, I'm my body, your body has changed, right? You probably, like when I describe myself, I didn't have the wrinkles that I have today when I was in school. So my body has changed. I didn't have this layer of fat. It's changed. If I describe myself as my mind, that has changed too, because my thoughts during that time were very different. I was interested in God knows what. What teenagers are interested in. I wasn't interested in Vedanta. I wasn't thinking about the world the way I see it now. I haven't had the experience of traveling around the world and all that I have learned. My thoughts are completely different. My mind is completely different. My approach to things is completely different. So my house is different. My car is different. My wife is different. My children, they were not even there at that time, my kids. So when you say that you are the same from the time that you were in school to now, none of these things is the same. Then why are you the same? If your body is not the same, your mind is not the same, your possessions are not the same, how can you say that you are the same? Yet you know you're the same. So what is it that has remained the same? That which has remained the same is the Atma. And you know it. It's not something which you need Vedanta to tell you. That there is an Atma and that Atma is unchanged. Vedanta doesn't need to tell you. That you know. But, sorry, go ahead. Let me finish and then you can ask.
Yeah.
But what you can't do is describe that me. That you need Vedanta for. So Vedanta is the proof, or let's say the Praman. Vedanta is the source of knowledge about yourself. So Vedanta will tell you something about that self. For example, it tells you that self will never die. That self was never born. These things Vedanta is telling you. Because there is no way for you to know. Now it's told you this, now it's saying, I'm telling you this. You examine what I'm telling you. See, does this make sense to you? Use logic, use your experience, use everything else. See, does it make sense? If it makes sense to you, believe it. Because if you believe it, along with it will come a lot of other things. You will believe that nothing will happen to you. Sorrow will go away. So if you don't believe it, that's fine. But somebody has to tell you first. It can't be your eyes, it can't be your mind. That's what Vedanta does. So anyway, so that I wanted to say that. And Atul, what was your question?
Actually, interesting thing is that, especially in the last week or 10 days, this thought has struck me a few times, that and what you're calling Atma hasn't changed, but it has struck me as there are parts of me, and actually this thought came in the context of our class, Montfort 77, because in some ways that's, other than immediate family, that's the longest benchmark, the longest milestone that we have, right? So I was just thinking that in some ways I feel the same way, for better or worse, because in some instances it is worse, because it's like I'm still behaving like a 12-year-old.
Right.
But there is an element which sort of, as it relates to us, that is unchanged. So, in fact, to put context, look at this. It doesn't show you, Dheeraj, because this predates you.
Predates me. Yeah.
But it has Mukta.
Yeah.
It has that's not Deshbir.
Gupta.
Mukta Gupta, Pankaj Saxena, Rahul Sehgal hota tha, Amit Verma, Piyushi.
Yeah, Piyushi.
Harshvardhan.
Yeah.
Girish Sethi, I think.
Yeah, Sethi.
Girish Sethi.
And ये कौन था? ये इसका भी नाम मैं भूल रहा हूँ.
Vipul.
Is this Desh? No, it's not Deshbir. No. This is Rahul Sehgal. Yeah.
Rajiv Sehgal.
Rajiv Sehgal. Yeah. So anyway, this is, I think, 5th grade. So.
And where are you?
That was a question that I asked Paula also, and she couldn't find me. I'm right here.
I was like, yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Where is Sanjay?
Sanjay, this period Sanjay.
Okay.
So when I saw this picture, I said, in some ways, there's a part of me that still feels that way,
Yeah, but I mean,
Viva
that is a feeling. What I'm trying to say is that's a feeling, because
that's
you
a
have a feeling of affection for that group. You've been with them for a long time. So
I think it's a feeling for the self also. I mean, what I'm saying is that, of course, it came out in the context of Montfort 77, but the feeling was also that there is a part of me, not us, but part of me that is still
the same.
The same.
I'll tell you, this was a big insight for me also. When I started learning Vedanta a long time ago, I still remember the time I was driving in my car going across. I was just about to enter the San Mateo Bridge to go over to the other side. I was driving to Genentech, and I was listening to Paula's lecture. I mean, not Paula. Sorry, Paula. I was listening to Carol's lecture, and I recall this. Almost my mind went back, because she said exactly what I just said right now. She said, there is a part of you which has never changed. So my mind went back to Ashok Vihar, and I imagined myself riding that bike, the blue-colored bike, the red-colored bike that we used to have.
Yours was red, mine was blue.
It's blue, yeah. So I imagined riding that, and then I suddenly realized, oh my God, that is me, right? It's the same, just like the kind of the feeling that you had with the picture. That was the first time I got a glimpse, so to say, of Atma. My mind got a glimpse of Atma. It's not that I always know that Atma is there. We always knew it, but we never recognized it. We never paid attention to it. So when this is how you get a glimpse, so after this, you will be more aware of this. Just like Sanjay said, you'll be aware that there is a seer, which is you. That this, it's like another example that they give is that of a fish, a deep sea fish, which has only lived in water. There is water all around it. Without water, it can't even breathe. All its food is in the water. It has never seen the surface. So that deep sea fish is not aware of water, because it doesn't know anything else. Just like we sort of are never aware of air. I mean, now we've been taught, so we are aware. But it's like that. That's what Atma is. It is everywhere because without it, you don't exist because you are that. But we are not aware. We are only aware of the things that Atma illumines, the things that we see, the objects. But once somebody points out that there is a subject and that is Atma, then you can't forget it. You may forget it for a time, but it will keep coming back. And bringing it back, thinking about it, bringing it back, and trying to do what Sanjay said, which is trying to look at the life from the perspective that you are Atma, is Nidhi Dhyasana. That's what is Nidhi Dhyasana. That's what is contemplation. So, all the other things about Vedanta, subtle body, this body, that body, you can think about it, they're all models. They may be right, they may be wrong. Vedanta says it is right. Even actually, funny thing is, I was talking to another teacher of Vedanta because I've been working with her in India that wanted to come up with a journal and things like that. And her concept of Vedanta is completely different. And then I suddenly realized, it's like there are so many different Vedanta concepts. So all that is fine. Thinking about it is not contemplation. Contemplation is, or Nidhi Dhyasana is trying to bring back this insight, which Atul had that insight when he looked at the picture, that something is the same. We all get that insight sometime. Try to bring that back and explore what does it mean if that is true, if that is the case, what does it really mean? How can I explain the world around me? If I am Atma, how do I explain what is happening? Then you have to bring in your mind, because your mind is the one who's seeing everything. Your mind is the one which is interacting with everybody else. That, by the way, is vyavaharika, meaning, in other words, the moment you brought your mind in, and then you know that. So when you are interacting in this world, thinking that you are the mind, you are going through vyavaharika. And Vedanta has a lot of advice on that too. Things like focus on the actions, not the results, right? All that is vyavaharika. All that assumes that there is a person, an individual, who's doing the work, who's focusing on the actions and not the results. All this advice is being given to an individual who's been told, contemplate. But what you do when you're contemplating is you're moving away from the individual. You're thinking, if you are the Atma, then who is it who's been getting that advice? So just putting your mind there and thinking about it, right, is going to start giving you a perspective which will benefit you as an individual. Just as Sanjay said, it will benefit you as a person. I mean, I'm not sure I'm coming across, but maybe you can listen to this again.
हाँ, ये काफी confusing concepts होते हैं, and really to sort them out, you really have to sit alone and think over it and try to segregate them, and then try to get to a path where they don't interfere with the working of each other.
Right. No, but actually that is true. That is true that you have to think about them, but they become real only when you get these insights, when you sort of get in touch with what is already there. When you know that there is something which has not changed, when you know I am here, and then you're saying, what is this me? What is the reality of this me which I know is here? I know now that this me is not my body. I know that this me is not that. That makes it very real. It's not imaginary concepts anymore. It's like the most real possible thing. Everything else.
Yeah, you have to delve very, very deep inside to get those answers.
Yeah.
And then act on that. Think on those lines.
Think on that. That is Nidhi Dhyasana.
There's something else that I can share which might help you. I don't know if it will help you, but it certainly helped me.
Yeah.
Most subjects that we have studied and I'm going back to school because that's the common format we have. So let's say we are studying physics, okay, with Brother Raja. So, and this applies to anything and everything, that we were always, if we got nervous because of not what we knew, but because what we didn't know. What's there in the book that we haven't understood yet. Then I'm calling Dheeraj or walking up to Dheeraj and sort of saying, Bata, what is this and what is that? So the whole concept was about what we know, but what we don't know. That's what made us nervous. So in this case, at least for me, what I have taken, the approach that I've taken is it's the inside out, what I know. In other words, I don't care what I don't know. That'll become known when it makes itself known. So in other words, I'm not going to worry about it because I'm not sitting for any exam. I don't have to pass this by July, or I don't have to do anything. I'm auditing this course, so to speak. So in other words, I'm focused on what I understand, and the rest can go to hell till it comes to me. So in other words, I'm not making myself nervous by saying all the things that I don't understand. There's plenty.
The most of the things we don't understand.
Most of the things we don't understand. But again, as far as this is concerned, I'm more focused on what I know, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
I'm content with what I know, knowing fully well that there's a whole lot of stuff outside, but I'm also saying it'll come when it comes, if it comes.
Yeah.
Anyway, you have to answer the question.
What answer? I was thinking about Vedanta, right?
Yeah.
I think that, I just started to learn, so I have a lot of mistakes. I think that Atma is absolute, is timeless, and is everything. And I think that us here is a manifestation in time and location. It's like, let's see, if you have a physical experiment that goes light through, you are not the sensor that captures that light. You are the light. But once we are capturing the light, we think that we as a light, we are the sensor that's measuring it because we feel it. But even the human body, my body is not like 1 year ago. All the cells on it is not there anymore. My brain is not there anymore because all the cells die.
Exactly.
And renew again. So even me, physically speaking, I'm not that sensor, that equipment that kept the light. I think it is that Atma is everything, is in everything, and we are like these clothes that we kept the sign, but we think that we are the equipment, the how can I say, the process, the sign, but we're not the equipment. We are the sign that flows through the universe and is everywhere. But we only think that we are the equipment because we have the mind to process the stimulus that we get from the organs. But even our cells that kept the organs die every month and renew every month.
Yeah. So to what you said in the beginning, you said that there is consciousness.
There is consciousness, yeah. It's everywhere.
Everything we see is a manifestation in space and time.
Yeah, like right. I feel like me, you feel like him, the table feels like it. The table just don't know that it doesn't is the table because maybe it doesn't have a sensor on it that has the self-realization. We have the self-realization that doesn't work very well because we think that we are subjects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
we have a self-realization which is confused.
Yeah, we don't have this equipment that self-realize that's just the lights pass on, We say, well, I'm alive, I'm the equipment.
But I was going to say that you're right, in the sense that it's manifestation in space and time, but maybe go one step even further.
Mm-hmm.
Atma is not everywhere. Atma is not even nowhere because Atma is non-dual. When you say Atma is everywhere, you're assuming that space exists and Atma is there everywhere in space, right?
Yeah. I wanted to say everywhere, but no considering time and space.
But not?
Not considering time in
In
space.
space.
Because
So-
if I consider time, I have to get a birth time for Atma
Yes.
and the death time for Atma. And I
Exactly.
consider location, I have to say where it starts or it ends.
Yes, exactly.
So everywhere, in the sense, no time
Exactly.
and no location.
So space and time
Space
is
is
just
time
a
here, our
manifestation.
sensor.
It's
Us as a sensor.
Earth is no, but I
Space
was trying to
time
say
is
that
us.
space and think about space and time as just a manifestation itself. Space and time itself is a manifestation. Because and you can know that because if space was real, there would be a limit to space. You'd know where it starts. And if time were real, you'd be able to say, okay, where does it start? Where does it, right? There is, because you can only think of time in particular segments. You can only think about time from a starting point to an end point, then you say there is time in between. Space also, you in your mind consider a starting point and an end point, you say there's space in between. That's because for the purposes of experience, we manifest space and time. Just like for the purpose of experience, we manifest people and objects. So what is really space and time is just a manifestation. So what is really there? Non-dual. That's the reality.
Atma.
Atma. It has to be non-dual. Because otherwise, if it's not non-dual, it is in space and time. You can't have something not in space and time and say it is not non-dual. The only thing which is not in space and time is non-dual. And our mind, which exists in space and time, the mind itself has been manifested by this Atma. So this mind, which has been manifested by Atma and exists in space and time, cannot conceive of what is non-dual. It is not capable of that conception. That is why we say Atma cannot be known. Because how can something which exists in space and time conceive of something non-dual? You're asking something lower to conceive of something higher. Doesn't work like that. So and then how does the mind know this? How did this thought come to the mind that there is something called non-dual and you are in duality? How? It was introduced as a thought into the mind by Vedanta. Somebody has to introduce this thought to the mind because the mind cannot think about this thought itself.
This is the sensor that the equipment doesn't have, right?
The equipment what?
Like in my example that I said, we are like equipment for measuring, that we kept the sign, but we think that we are the sign.
Yeah.
But we are broken because we don't have the self-realization.
Exactly.
So Vedanta is the self-realization that we are born without it.
That's right. Exactly. So we are broken, but our mind has a capacity or an ability to use logic. If a thought is given to the mind can examine it logically and say, can I find a logical fallacy in it? Logic can never give you a new thought. Logic can only examine a thought for fallacy. Is it logically consistent with everything else that I see? Is there an anomaly? That's all logic can do. Every discovery, everything that we have learned so far, nothing has really come from logic. Logic only tests it, right? Like Einstein came up with the idea that time is flexible or space can be curved. It was not derived logically. It was an idea which sprang into his head. And then he logically and mathematically examined it and then tried to make connections with it, really developed it. So logic helps you develop it. Logic helps you make sure it is right. If there are kinks, logic helps you remove the kinks. So the thought given to your mind now is your mind exists in duality, in space and time. It's a manifestation. The real thing which underlies the mind and everything else is Atma, which is non-dual. You, the mind, are a manifestation in space and time of this Atma. And how does this manifestation occur? It's knowledge. Atma has that knowledge. Just like in visual reality, VR, you have software programs which can manifest the whole world. You know, now Apple has come up with this Pro Vision. It can manifest a whole bunch of things. What is it? Just knowledge, software, which is manifesting, right, in space and time. So that thought has been given to your mind. And now your job, the mind's job, is to take that thought and examine. Does that thought make sense? Can it stand to reason? And Vedanta gives you the thought. It helps you examine also, but you have to do the examination.
Mhm.
Okay? That's so just to kind of build on what you were saying. That's how the process works.
Mhm.
You see, everybody answered in their own way. She answered like a physicist. She's like her conception of Vedanta is also like a physicist. It's about instruments and all of that. It's fine. I mean, I'm comfortable with physics, so I love it. Okay. I think that's any other. So as far as chapter, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Atul had said about that picture and being. When I was just thinking, I've tried to. I mean, through all this phase, I've come to one thing, that what we talked about, subtle body. That subtle body. After death, subtle body only takes the rebirth that we have, reincarnation, that subtle body comes to us. So I believe we come with some tendencies, some preconditioned tendencies and sanskar in them. And I think they are our core nature, which
Yes.
right from birth till what we might have changed a lot in our personalities. Leave aside physical thing, even our personalities might have changed to some extent. But I think our core nature and basic certain things remain the same. And I attribute it to that subtle body basic tendencies that we
Sanskars,
come with. That's the
vasanas, whatever you want to call
scars,
them.
whatever
Absolutely.
you
That's
word.
totally what
I
Vedanta
think
says.
that is what Atul was saying, that part of me is the same. I also feel part of me, a lot part of me is the same.
So
I
tell
might
me,
have changed.
when you say a part of me is the same, and you say sanskar, tell us more about what you mean there, because that's important to understand. Because I think, yeah, I want to make sure that
No, I'm not talking about the sanskars we get from our family or our parents, or I'm not talking about
doesn't
that
matter. Whatever.
sanskar.
When you say part of us is the same, tell me what you
So
mean.
that is what I mean. In one way, subtle body is also not consciousness. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean everything is consciousness in one way, but in another
Yeah,
way, yes, it is
that
not
way
consciousness.
also.
Nothing that you can identify, nothing that you can
Yeah,
conceive of is consciousness.
yeah,
Subtle body is something you conceive.
yeah.
Obviously,
So
it's not
that
consciousness.
is
Yeah,
also not
not
that.
consciousness.
So,
Yeah.
but since we believe in the reincarnation theory and that thing, so you may call it sanskar or certain tendencies
Yeah,
or
yeah.
behavioral personality aspects or whatever
Yeah.
word you may call it.
Your nature,
That's
whatever
what
you
I
want.
mean.
Exactly. I totally understand what you're
Yeah,
saying. That's
I
why
think
you're
they
born in the
come.
first place. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're born, you come with them,
Yeah.
and they remain with you. What I call in normal, I used to call it. Now I'm using these words, but I used to call the core nature of a person remains the same.
Yes. Yes. See, but see, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You're right that there are certain things you're born with. Let's say you're born with your body. You're born with your parents. They'd never change. You can't change
Yeah,
your parents, right? You're born with them. You're born with your body. You're born as a woman. You can't change it into a man. Right? These are prarabdha vasanas. These are things that you're born with. Nothing you can do. You're born with some tendencies in your mind which have come from your previous janmas. Previous
yeah,
janma. You can't change. But I'm saying that is not Atma.
Yeah,
In other
I
words,
agree.
because
Yeah,
even
I
those
agree with
things
that.
which you say can't change, they actually change. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They may change very little, they may change very slowly,
Yeah,
but they evolve.
exactly.
Because remember what Krishna Bhagwan said in chapter 2, which I just read out to you. That which is Atma can never change. That which is Anatma, which includes all the things you talk about, including your sanskars, everything, all those things can never not change. You
I
said
agree.
both
I get your
things.
point.
Huh? You
I
remember?
get your point.
Yes. They will change. We may want them not to change. We may find very minute change in them. We may, because we are emotionally vested in these things, we may only look for those things where it doesn't change. And we say, see, we tell you core nature doesn't change. What a nice person. Correct? All that is true. But if you be totally dispassionate and objective, you will see there are changes.
Yeah, changes are there, but
I know what you mean. I know exactly. I also say the same thing, right? But this is a piece of knowledge which we need to know. The reason is because everything has birth and death. And everything which is close to us, which has birth and death, will give us sorrow when it finishes. Even the thought that everything changes, that nothing is constant, even the thought, like I gave you a thought just now, that even the core nature can change. That itself gave you a pang of sorrow, actually. It gives me a pang of sorrow when I think about it.
Actually, not only I think that's precisely how I feel about the pang of sorrow, but in some ways I also feel that when we were 10 or 11, the photograph that I shared, I think we did not have any dissonance, cognitive dissonance. I feel one way, but my body is different. In other words, it was all in a one this. There was consistency. Today, I think part of the sorrow comes from that there is part of me that is still that same guy in that photograph.
Yeah.
But
Wants to
the
be the
part
same
has
guy
moved
also.
on, for better or worse. So there's that, that dissonance has
Well, I
has
mean,
become.
I want us not to change. I want the same Mukta, the same Atul, the same Sanjay. I want you all to be the same because I feel the same, and I want that same
But we all realize that we are not the same anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why
So
the
that's the pang of sorrow. That's the
sorrow
dissonance.
sorrow comes when something in our expectation is not lined up with reality. And
Yeah.
when that adjustment happens, because reality is going to take over, truth always wins. When that adjustment happens, we feel the sorrow. It's like an earthquake, when the faults are, there is stress, suddenly the fault gives up. Then there is sorrow, right? So our expectation in life is some things should not change. Really, it is our expectation in life. Some core things should not change. What Bhagwan Krishna tells us in black and white is that everything changes. Everything has birth and death, except for Atma, which never changes. This requires some introspection and some getting used to. It requires a lot of getting used to. Okay.
This, by the way, applies to the climate change also.
That I formulated a message to you because I wanted to know more, but then I thought, let me focus on Vedanta first. Get prepared for the class rather than spend time arguing back and forth with Atul. This guy, he mires me, he draws me into conversations and arguments.
You asked for it. You said
Paula,
say
have you
more.
noticed this about Atul? He loves to argue and discuss.
You said say more though. Like, okay, say more though. I'll say more.
Okay.
If you're
And then
not happy with that,
before I know it, I'm like in the heat of the battle. Like suddenly I'm thinking, why am I arguing? Like,
But Dheeraj, the hardest part is how to to reach that Atma? What is the course?
See, so
You
Sanjay,
do
actually, it's very
more
interesting.
about Atma and get connected.
You know, you should really. There are other parts of other sort of courses in Vedanta or other techniques of teaching in Vedanta, which you should look into also. So I'll tell you, this person that I was talking to, this lady, she has a course,
Indian
and I
woman.
went through
The Indian woman.
the Indian woman. So I went through her course. So there's a gentleman called Mr. Partha Sarthi. He's still alive, I think. He's Swami, but he's a very well-known Vedanta teacher. The Vedanta that she says, the way that she describes it is, she says, the way to become moksha, to reach Atma, is by finishing your desires. You have to, you have all these desires, and she prescribes the path of yoga, which is you start with, the different stages of yoga, meditation. Slowly you reduce your desires, then you get one pointed desire, then you have a single desire, and then that goes away. And once all the desire goes away, then you are a mumuksha. You've reached moksha. Okay? And this is, she writes, so she says, this is the way to reach moksha. You reach Atma. And she talks about these Mahapurush who've done it, and how hard it is to do, how difficult it is to do, and how to get there. And there are others too. Sanjay, Tere ko yaad hai, one time you had sent me of another person an article which said something very similar, which said, science and technology. Vedanta is the science, and this is the technology of yoga. So this is a combination. It combines Vedanta and yoga in a way, just like Gita also does. Gita also talks about yoga, and it says you have to become sthir prajna. You have to control your emotions, right? You have to be the same in when you're facing something bad, and when you're facing something good, you have to get to be the same. For that, you have to have discipline. For that, you have to have practice, meditation, right? Now, this is the way to think about it. I'm not saying right or wrong. This is not the way Shankaracharya has taught Vedanta. And she also knows it. So I asked her this. And she said, the way Shankaracharya teaches Vedanta, all this Paramarthika, tu bhi mujhe kabhi kabhi kehta hai, all this thing, she said, this is useless for people. People are not going to get anything from here. People need a disciplined approach where, they can, so her thinking is, and Swami Partha Sarthi's thinking is, this knowledge by itself is useless. It's too esoteric. Most people don't understand it. There's no point. And I went through her course because I'm helping her with her journal. So, being a good consultant, I try to understand the client. So I went through her course, did her course and everything. It's an 18-hour course. And I find it very different from the way I have learned Vedanta, or what I like about Vedanta. Because for me, the central piece is, what about me is not changing? How do I connect with it? How do I stay with it? That's Vedanta. All the description about desire causes action, control desire, you can control action, control the mind, control discipline. This is all, how to control. These are all like emotional intelligence. It's like that kind of thing. There are many such courses. But I don't want to go there. What I'm trying to say is, we have to find for ourselves what works for us. What is it that we want? So if I was to answer your question, Sanjay, how to reach Atma, my answer may be something different from what you might expect, and maybe different from what you would like. My answer to you would be
woman's answer, the Indian woman's answer.
The Indian woman's answer will give you a path to reach Atma. She'll tell you,
that's very different from what you would offer.
Yeah, because the Indian woman's answer would be, and I'll tell you what it is. It would be, do Jnana Yoga, Karam Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. She has a diagram which I could show you.
Get rid of the desires.
Yes, once you do these yogas, you have a general control about desires. Then you go to the next step, which is you start practicing the fifth stage of the yoga in that Ashtanga. Then you go to dharana, then you go to dhyana, you do meditation, you practice, and in that process, you finish your desire. By controlling your desires, Atma will show up.
Dheeraj, I want to. I don't think this can be answered or should be answered in the remaining time. There's very little on. So I'm just going to leave it for you to ponder, and then maybe if it's interesting enough, we can discuss it later. You see, when she talks about, and again, I recognize it's unfair because you're just sharing with us what she says. You're not going to defend her fully. But when she talks about getting rid of desire, so I'm equating getting rid of desire. I'm trying to see how different is it from us losing interest, because I saw that in my father. In the last 10-15 years, slowly he was losing interest in many of the things that he was very fond of, like travel and exploration. So I used to get upset, I used to feel sad, he used to feel sad. Whereas it can be viewed as he's getting rid of those desires. He has no desire to travel in America. He has no desire to travel in Europe. Or I viewed it as he has no interest in traveling in Europe.
Well, the only thing I would say is, was he sad doing so? See, there are two things. You can get rid of a lot of desires because you desire something more important. As a child, we desire a toy, right?
Yeah, but he didn't get rid of it to desire anything more. But my point was,
it's not that he got rid of it. Did he automatically lose interest because he wanted something more? Or
no. I mean, I don't think it was willful anyway. I don't think it was at least I don't think it was willful. But my point is that I think it's the same coin, and I'm actually not buying the Indian woman's argument actually, because one can view the same thing and call it this person successfully got rid of the desire. He doesn't want new car anytime. He doesn't want a Porsche. Or we can also say that he has lost interest in Porsche. And one is a negative statement, the other one is a positive statement.
So I'm trying to tell you what dispassion means in Vedanta. So let me before I do that, just to answer Sanjay, that I gave you was the lady's answer. If you would ask this to Shankaracharya, what he would tell you is, you already are Atma. You don't have to access Atma. There was never a time when you were not Atma. There was never a time that Atma was not known to you. You just have to look at your experience and discrimination, Vivek, identify what that Atma is in your experience. There is nothing, you are a Jnani. There is nothing called a Jnani or a liberated person different from you. The only difference is that the liberated person knows that I'm a liberated person. The non-liberated person thinks he is non-liberated. That is the only difference. It's not that you are a body and mind right now, which has to become Atma. You never were a body and mind. You never will be a body or mind. You always were Atma. You just think that you're body and mind. That orientation has to change. That's not an easy thing to do. But that's all that needs to be done. Nothing else is needed. So this is Shankaracharya's answer. As far as Atul's thing is concerned, I want to clarify what dispassion means, because it is very widely misunderstood. And I want to give you an example for that. Think about it. When you are a little child, when I was a little child, I loved toy trains. I wanted toy trains. In fact, I still remember, which is something I never got and it still bugs me. There is a pipe which you can smoke. It's like you can put talcum powder in it and smoke it. And I always wanted that pipe. I had it, I lost it, and I could never find it. There are little small things that we want. And we want them desperately. Like you, Mukta, might have wanted a doll or something. I don't know what it is that girls want. But you may have wanted a dress. Now, if I ask you now, that desire has gone. Did you suppress that desire? Did you willfully get rid of the desire? Did you say, no, it is wrong to want a dress. I am going to control my desire. I'll meditate and kill that desire. No. Why did the desire go away? Because as you grew up, your desires changed. You started growing up. You said, I want a family. I want a husband who loves me and one to whom I can love. I want children. I want them to grow in this world. Those are much bigger desires, much bigger, more important, higher things than a dress. Your desires changed. When desires change and you grow, automatically things that you grow out of, you lose passion for. You develop vairagya for the things which are no longer important. You don't see them as important. You will always desire that which you consider important. Always. You will never desire things that you don't consider important. When you grow, what you consider important changes. A time comes when you consider Atma and knowledge of Atma as more important to your happiness than the material things in the world. Automatically, your desire for the material things starts dropping off because you have focused somewhere else. Your desire for that becomes intense. You're not without desire. You just desire something else. When you desire knowledge of Atma, you desire it with huge passion. It's called mumukshutva. That desire becomes the important desire for you. And the other desires fall off. Not because of yoga, not because of discipline, because of knowledge, because your priorities have changed. That is the meaning of dispassion. So when you say that you have to have vairagya, it means the person begins to understand that the objects of the world are no longer important or enough to give him happiness. That's called vairagya. So that's why they say vairagya is necessary. If a person doesn't understand this and you bring him to Vedant, the person is not going to get anything from Vedant. He'll still be thinking, or he or she will still be thinking about the objects of the world, and listening to Vedant, just doing it no justice. So when we say that one of the qualifications for Vedanta is vairagya, that means a person has reached a stage where he is beginning to say there is something more. This world objects are not enough. Parikshaya lokan karam chittan. After having done all those things, lived in this life, right? So there is nothing like fanciful or big about this vairagya. It's just we are having, every time we have vairagya for something. It just, when you have the vairagya for this world, then you have a rag or a desire for something bigger. That's all. Yeah.
I mean, I was born as Christian.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think that Christians have, that almost all human beings have, I don't know if it's physiological, what it is.
Yeah.
Christians believe in a savior that comes and saves this everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, even countries, they thinking about a politician who is going to save the country. For me, this practicing yoga should be enlightening. It's like the magical pill or the magical, how can I say, exit. Something you're gonna take or do, and it's gonna be like a magical boom, turns everything, like a cartoon, boom. And they want this kind of enlightenment. Know that you are already Atma, the knowledge that you already are.
So that's a misconception.
You're gonna still eating, dressing, waking
up.
Shower,
Exactly. Nothing will, absolutely. You look at a
Yeah.
person, you can't tell whether the person is enlightened or not.
Exactly. But
You
I think
can't.
they want the path out. It's like, I will do this position in yoga, and so they're gonna exit the words,
So
like
that's a
in
big
life.
misconception, right? It's a huge misconception, because that's why I was telling Sanjay also the last time, or Mukta, that one day you'll just say, I have no doubt I am Atma. And I know my Atma, I know me, I'm Atma. It's like, and it's not happened suddenly. You'll say, yeah, for the last few days or for the last few times, I've been thinking like that. It'll just strike you. It's not like and this is how change happens. This is how orientations change. You've changed,
Like
and then
you're gonna float
and
go to another
then you realize
dimension.
later that you've changed. It's not like changing house. That okay, I decide.
But I think the problem with all that is that when you do realize, there is all the metrics that we have used in the last 62 years, the happiness, sorrow, sweet, bitter, chatpata, all those become bland. In other words, they become irrelevant.
Oh. Why? Why do they become bland?
Or they become irrelevant. They become irrelevant.
See,
Because
it's not that the feelings become irrelevant. It's that the source of those feelings is different. See, when you like, let's say you have changed, Atul, from when you were a teenager to now. A toy car or a toy cycle doesn't give you that same benefit, that same feeling. But when you were a little kid and somebody had told you, Atul, you're going to grow up and you're not going to care for these cars and these cycles that you're driving or whatever else, the play that we did during the evenings, you're not going to care for all of this at all. You would have felt very sad. You said, no, how can it be? My life will lose all joy. What actually happens is your life gains joy.
no, but that's not the point I'm making. I mean,
But I'm trying to tell you,
I'm not arguing that point.
I'm saying the same thing here. All this thing that you're saying, I will lose the chatpata, I will lose. What are you trying to say? You're saying you lose the joy of life.
Okay, let me rephrase this.
Okay.
We look for Atma when we are sorrowful. If I'm happy, I'm not looking for changing that. I'm saying, leave me like this. When I'm sorrowful, that's when I'm sort of saying, how to get out of this.
Yeah,
when I'm happy, I'm not asking myself how to get out of that.
So that's a question for you to introspect. Is that true?
No, but after introspection, I'm sharing my post-introspection thoughts with you that when I'm happy, I'm not looking to change that. When I'm sorrowful, that's what I'm looking to change. And then the answer to that is, well, when you get to the Atman, if you realize that it's all Atma, there's no happiness in Atma, there's no sorrow in Atma. It is just is.
No. I don't know how to change this because you've said this again and again, and I don't know. I'm not getting across. Maybe it's not. I'll give you my journey or my example, right? It's not true that I only think of Vedanta when I'm sad. It's not true.
No,
I spend hours thinking about Vedanta because it gives me.
For you, it's a subject. But
no, it's a source of joy. It's a like.
No, but what I'm saying is you are a teacher, you're a student, and all that. But I'm saying, take me as an example, or Sanjay, or Mukta, or Paula. If we are looking, if we want to view it as a tool, or something that will solve our mysteries of life and make our life better, whether it's Vedanta or anything else. I mean, the truth is that, at least from my perspective, that we think of doing something different when we are unhappy with what we have. If we are happy with what we have, we don't look for a change. We try to freeze it. Right? So that is the only point I'm making, that if we...
No, that's right. That's right. I mean, I think what I'm trying to understand is you're saying when you're unhappy, you think about Vedanta. Then when you get happy, you forget about Vedanta.
No, forget Vedanta as a subject. I'm saying, because I'm approaching it as give me knowledge without putting any label around it. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm saying, when I'm happy, the thought doesn't go into my head as to how can I change it. When I'm unhappy, that's when the thought strikes, how can I change it? It's almost like I don't think of pulling out my wrench when the toilet is not leaking.
I need to take
pulling
this.
out my wrench only when the toilet is
Atul,
leaking.
our aim is to go to happiness. When we are unhappy, only then we are thinking about happiness.
Absolutely.
But when we are happy,
so
we need not change it. Because our goal is to go to happiness.
Line 1?
That is precisely my point.
My account number. It's totally fine.
The source of the desire, the need to find Atma, or this
No worries.
sthar pragya is useful only when we are unhappy. I'm not looking for sthar
Yeah,
pragya when I'm
because
happy.
we want to change unhappiness quotient, na?
No,
We don't want to change the happiness quotient.
exactly. That's precisely my point. That we are willing to change. We're
And
wanting to change
then
the
only
unhappy
when
part,
we
but
are
we're not ready
unhappy,
to give up
we
the
try
happy
to
part.
lean towards all these, you call it Vedanta or whatever, to bring us back to that happiness quotient, or to tackle that unhappiness quotient, so that we are not that unhappy.
See, um, the way that this
ये बात
works.
ना?
Mukta, sorry, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I would like to say for myself, I am not doing or listening to this or studying or whatever you may call it. This thought never crossed my mind that I am doing it for happiness or I am doing it because I'm unhappy. The thing what you say, sorry, that thing is there that when we are unhappy or when we have a problem, we pray or do that. That is, I think, our conditioning from our families, from our culture. जब कुछ नहीं समझ आता, कुछ भी किसी को समझ नहीं आता, तो क्या करते हैं? You can't do it. Then you just, that thing is in us, like कि just मेरे जैसा भी जो नहीं कुछ करता था, तब जब बहुत ज्यादा कोई प्रॉब्लम है या कुछ है, even I would pray, which I normally would not. In a normal, but now with this Vedanta study or whatever, I don't think about it like this, that because I'm unhappy, so I am doing it, or because I'm feeling happy, I'm doing it because I feel interested, I like it, I am, enjoying it, I am doing it. So I don't relate it to happiness or unhappiness.
See,
I don't know.
when you study, I totally, Mukta, by the way, I'm just like that. I
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
agree. The trigger for it, the first trigger may have been, the trigger it pulled me, I've been interested in Vedanta all along, not because of happiness or unhappiness, just interested. There may have been a trigger which kind of helped me go from a casual student to a serious student, but
Yeah.
that trigger goes away, you still continue. My point is, think about it like this. This is not don't think about it as an answer to your life's problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is not.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there are some problems which Vedanta can't solve. In fact, what Vedanta says is, you have to be ready for Vedanta, you have to solve some problems first in your life. Because if you haven't solved those problems in your life first, Vedanta won't help you. That's why they have a qualification, like they say Vairagya, Vivek, all of those things. There are certain things, like a little baby or a little child who has all this no understanding of life, lots of problems with the ego and things like that, will not get anything from Vedanta. So you have to, in fact, actually in the Indian system, the Vedas, the Karam Kand of the Vedas is meant to solve those problems. Because it's meant to give you some antakarna shuddhi, some sthirta of the mind, some relative stability of the mind. That comes from the first portion of the Veda, Karam Kand. After that is done, then you study Vedanta. That's why they say study Vedanta in the end of your life, or like this last phase. But anyway, that is just what I'm trying to say is, now we have many more tools. Maybe like there are certain problems I have for which I have to solve them, I have to go to a psychotherapist. I talk to my son sometimes, who's a therapist. We talk about things, or there are many people who come to me. They know that I'm taking classes and I've done Vedanta. People come to me. I'm surprised. They say, okay, Dheeraj, talk to me. मेरे को ये हो रहा है, मेरे को जिंदगी में ये हो रहा है, मुझे ये दुख है, मुझे वो है. And I have to tell them, actually, I can't help you because I don't know how to solve your dukh. I seriously recommend them to go to a therapist. It will be of big help to them. Only after you've solved some of these problems of your life, then come to Vedanta. Because we are talking about a very subtle solution to a subtle problem. You're talking about big, gross issues, like an open wound. I can't, take care of it. Do what is needed right now to take care of it.
On a lighter note, just now what happened was when Dheeraj started speaking about Sanjay's thing, Sanjay, when you started telling that Indian lady, Atma, kaise, ye wo, subconscious reflex from my body and mind was I became suddenly very attentive. And the next moment when Dheeraj said that she says ki you have to leave all your desires, and I simply realized that this I can't do.
It makes no
This
sense.
is so
Yes.
subconscious.
Get rid of desires.
She gets no
You have
desire.
to get
Yeah,
rid of all
so
your
that-
desires. It was so subconscious, and I witnessed it. Like, what am I doing?
But to Dheeraj's credit, that's one of the first few things he said. He knows that if he asks us to get rid of our desires, so class band ho jayegi. So he said that.
No, I myself would not be interested. I'm not.
So he made it very clear that no, you can live
Yeah,
your
this is
life.
not, and I'm not saying that is the course to follow, because everybody has different needs. So if you want different things, investigate, find out, right? I mean, I was in Vipassana for the longest time. I did Vedanta, I did all the meditations and all that. Nothing worked for me. I mean, I said, like, this thing is not, there's no conviction. Because the questions that I had, they were not being answered. It was a hammer looking for a nail. My questions were totally different. My questions just got answered by Vedant. It just happens to be some other people will mix and match differently. So I was just trying to say this because all of you guys should know that, like, don't just take what I say for, the only truth. It is the only truth, but maybe not the right one for you.
So you're also selling your stuff in a buffet line now, is what you are saying.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just trying to tell you that there is a buffet line. Okay.
There is a buffet line. You're acknowledging that there is a buffet line.
Buffet line, exactly.
Yeah.
More so than I even realized.
Yeah.
I did not realize what a big buffet line this is. It has really put me off a little bit. In fact, I thought I would write.
Like there is a buffet line that specializes only in Vedanta, and that's even a buffet line.
That's even a buffet line. Yeah. Even only Vedanta, only Advait Vedanta. Even that's a buffet line.
It's buffet line.
Yeah, and there also this thing, the same thing. What I've realized is, एक है combination of Vedanta plus yoga, which is meditate, and single-hearted meditation, and you have to reach somewhere. That is the buffet line, because we are in our mind. This is the way we always think. To achieve something, we have to make an
Result
effort.
orientation.
To achieve something huge, we have to make a huge effort. To achieve something which is the pinnacle of all, we have to make an effort that is the pinnacle of all. And we also know, hey, we cannot, how can I make that effort? I don't have the energy, I don't have the capability. So at least let me try. If not in this janam, next janam I will achieve. Right? That is our orientation. That orientation causes a problem. Because it's telling you that today you are small. Today you are little. Today you are incapable. Do something to grow it to bigger. Vedanta is telling you just the opposite. Vedanta is saying Tat Tvam Asi. Aham Brahmasmi. It's saying today you are Atma. Today you are God. Not just today you are that, you always have been and you always will be, and nothing you do can change it. You become a sinner today and start, doing all kinds of dirty, bad things, telling lies, drinking away your life, gambling, being a deceitful guy, you will still be Atma. The reason that you don't want to do those things is because you have an ethical sense in you. You won't be happy in this world. You want to live the right way. That's the reason. Not because you have to reach Atma.
But you would have a consequence in the next reincarnation too, right?
Yeah, but see,
No,
that's true.
So what Dheeraj is saying is that the consequences are today. So in other words, you should lead a good ethical life, not for what might happen in the future, whether it's heaven or hell or different life, but live a good life today for its own goodness.
For what it does to you, the experience that, for what it does to you.
You're not pre-buying a ticket to some other place.
Right, exactly. You're not paying in advance.
Yeah,
Right?
you
But
do the good thing so that you live a good life today to get the
yeah,
benefit
it'll
of
give
good
you the
life.
happiness right now. If you
Yeah.
do it the right way, if you have the right
Yeah.
knowledge, doing the dharmic thing, doing the right thing will give you happiness right now. The reason it won't give you happiness is because you feel that, oh, that other guy is missing out, making a lot of money, you're being just right, doing the right thing, and you give a lot of value to that money that other guy is making, right? Which is not true, which is not in touch with reality. So these are all, you can sort these things, you have to sort out. Vedanta may help you sort these things out, but that's not the direct route to sorting these things out. It's like if you have a problem, there are some medicines, like if you have a nerve pain, Tylenol will help you solve the nerve pain. But better take gabapentin because that will directly address the nerve pain. Right? Right, Sanjay?
Yeah.
So Vedanta may help you, but if your problem is of a type which a therapist or a psychologist will be better suited to help, go there. Now, what Vedanta is saying is just like to you, Paula, you're a physicist. You're interested in knowledge for the sake of knowledge. You want to know the reality of the world.
I think there's two kinds of people. The one who goes after knowledge because is driven outside of the zone of comfort. In other words, something bad happened, so they need to figure out what to do. And two, they like to know things, study, and always searching.
Yeah. And even those two kind of people, I would say I'm, in a way, I have a big part of the second one. I'm always studying and searching. But for most of my life, I studied and searched quantum physics, neuroscience. That's where relativity. I've spent a lot of time learning those things. I thought I would find the answer to the reality there.
No.
Similarly, for my own personal problems, I went to America. I learned a new job. I became a consultant. I worked very hard. I acquired new clients. I thought through that I will find satisfaction. In the both the cases, at some stage I realized I was wrong. The study I want to understand the reality is not quantum physics, but Vedanta. The understanding of myself and the things that I want for my own happiness are not a better job, but Vedanta.
At
So
least
Vedanta,
as of right
now. But I'm just saying it's how this works. So Vedanta, think about it as knowledge. It's knowledge of the subject. It's knowledge of the world as it is. It's not about solving problems of life. Yes, it solves problems of life also. But if solving problems of your life is what you want, then address that problem. See what's the best way to solve that problem. And Vedanta may or may not be the best way to solve that problem, depending on the problem. If your problem is, I just can't find satisfaction in this world, right? Sure, go for Vedanta. If your problem is, I am sad because I feel I am not capable, I feel others around me are doing so much better than I'm doing, that people are making money doing this, it's a problem of self-worth, of ego. Vedanta will not solve it. Actually, you're not ready for Vedanta. You better not come to Vedanta. Because you have to, you may need to go, you may need other solutions. Right? Vedanta is not a universal answer for everything. You have to be very mature to even start that. And that's a difference, when that's why these people like the Indian lady I'm talking about, they have such a following. Because they tell people, we will solve your problems. They might say that there is a yeah, they might say that we need qualified, you have to be good.
There's a churn for it, or there is a solution.
Yeah,
for
but
it.
they try to offer Vedanta as a solution to everything. And people want solutions for their problems. They feel bad, they feel sad, they have pain in their life. They come to her, she will give them the classes, and they hear this thing that I need to overcome my desires. What it does is just change the problem. First, their problem was, I'm unhappy because I'm not doing well. Now the problem is I can't overcome my desires. It just changes the problem. It introduces guilt. It introduces a feeling of lack of self-sufficiency because you can't control your desires. You can try. You keep badgering yourself up more and more. It doesn't help. A therapist, if you go to a therapist, will never say control your desires. A therapist will say acknowledge your desires, understand your desires. Maybe let's find out where they come from. What's the root cause of your problems from, It's much different. Because by doing so, your ego, your self-worth is growing. You're tackling that issue of low self-worth. You can't tackle the issue of low self-worth by telling people control your desires. Then the self-worth has gone even more. That's my feeling. That's my approach or understanding of life.
But it makes perfect sense. But did you tell her that?
No point. I can't tell her that. If I tell her that, she's just going to tell me you are talking
How wrong you are, yeah.
impractical things. What do you mean? I can't even convince Sunil about it, yeah.
Huh?
Sunil also feels that pure knowledge cannot solve anything. Actually, now it gives me an understanding of why Sunil is saying that, because I'm beginning to see all these people. I'm going to have a conversation with Sunil about it. Because we are going to Vedanta, we have not understood what it means. When they say the fourfold qualification for Vedanta, we have not understood it properly.
But I think we are digressing a lot. But I also feel that we collectively should view Vedanta as one of the subjects. So again, I'm going back to Montfort School. So when we were studying biology, physics, chemistry, English, mechanical drawing, this, that, Sanskrit, we never looked at any one subject. We all had favorites, but we never looked at one subject as this is it. This is going to be the answer. If we knew that, we would leave everything else, right? We were studying all those things. So why don't we consider Vedanta as just one more window through which we are looking out?
So I would ask you to formulate your opinion on that after you've spent time truly trying to understand Vedanta. Then you see how does it fit. In my opinion, the way I see it, physics, chemistry, math, not math as much, physics, chemistry, biology, they are just different windows for looking at the same material world.
Okay.
Physics looks at it from one perspective, normally an inanimate perspective. Biology looks at it from an animate perspective. Chemistry looks at it. You cannot make progress in any one of those fields without having a basic understanding of all the others. You can't. They're completely interrelated. Eventually, if you're looking for an answer about the world, you'll have to see all three. And math, of course, because you need math for all three. Math is a language. It's not a subject. It's a language which will help you reach places where your mind can't reach. Through math, you can express non-duality. Not even non-duality, you can't even express through math. But you can express multiple dualities. You can express a four-dimensional space through math. You can't express it through your mind. So that is aside. Vedanta is totally different. All these things that you're talking about, physics, chemistry, math, everything, they're all describing the world of objects. Vedanta has nothing to do with that. It has no quarrel with that. Vedanta is describing the world of the subject. Vedanta also has a point of view about the world of objects. What is its point of view? It says, in the world of objects, there is the jiva. That jiva is an object. That jiva goes, dies, then gets reborn. Then there's karma, the law of karma, the law of dharma. When it talks about all that, it is again in the world of objects. So Vedanta provides a little perspective there, right? But I don't think that is better than the perspective provided by physics today or math. I don't know and I don't care. What Vedanta really does is give you an insight on the world of the subject. Who is the perceiver? Who is understanding all these things? Who's understanding chemistry, physics, math? Who's thinking about future? Who's thinking about the life after death? Who's thinking about karma? Who's thinking about the right thing to do, dharma, satisfaction? All these things. Who is it? Who is thinking about all that? That perspective only Vedanta gives. There is no interrelation between this and physics, math, chemistry, etc., etc., etc. That's how I see it. But Vedanta actually goes a step forward than that. And it actually says this subject, which I'm giving you an advice. First it says the subject is different from the object. Then it says the subject is the most important thing. Because the object is nothing but a manifestation of knowledge. That knowledge of which knowledge resides with the subject. That's a future. That's Advaita Vedanta. But anyway, I think it's been a long time. It's been 2 hours almost. Sanjay, tu to thak gaya hoga yaar.
Double
So
class.
you had a very busy day today.
Yeah.
I think
Chalo,
I'd band
very
kar.
interesting discussions
Okay.
and good insights into the thought process. Yeah.
Yeah. ठीक है, मुक्ता?
Okay. My
Mukhtar,
battery is down.
हो गई है.
Okay. Chalo,
नहीं,
Paula and
मेरी
Atul,
battery-
we'll meet in a, or you entered the waiting room.
Okay.
It's okay, but we are almost done.
Yeah, my device battery is just gone.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll see you in 2 weeks, okay?
Okay.
यार धीरज नेक्स्ट क्लास पे हमारी वो आरयू है तो दो चीजें करना मुश्किल हो जाएगा तो
Oh, I didn't realize.
हाँ
Acha, acha.
प्रीपोन और पोस्टपोन इट.
Yeah, you tell me whatever works for you. I mean, I'm okay. You guys, why don't you and Mukta tell me?
Yeah.
एक वीक पोस्टपोन कर लेंगे.
ठीक है.
ये संडे को कर लो. नहीं, संडे तो मुश्किल होगा. संडे.
So that
Sunday.
means we meet 3 weeks from today.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Chalo. See you guys.
See you.
Okay.
Bye.